Thank you, guys, so much. It's a pleasure to be back. It's actually a pleasure to be back in Missouri. This is like 4 weeks in a row that I've been everywhere. I got home last night at like 11, I think. And then I decided to redo this presentation. So I did that at like 5 this morning, so that's why I got here right at the 11th hour. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I agree with you guys that it's very stressful, isn't it, in today's market? It's very stressful. I think that at some level, our market, our industry, I should say, is kind of getting exposed right now. Not you guys, but the industry in and of itself is getting exposed. In that the realtor community as a group works really well as long as things are kind of in the middle. You know, as long as we got enough listings, and we got some buyers, and now we're on the edge. Well, to me, we're on the edge as much or more so than we were from 2008 to 2011. That market stressed out certain people. You know, in that market, if you had sellers and you were a listing agent, you were stressed. Sellers were stressed in that market. But if you look at our market today, buyers are stressed, buyer agents are stressed, sellers are stressed, listing agents are stressed, lenders are stressed. I mean, seriously, appraisers are stressed, inspectors are stressed, repair people are stressed. I mean, it's just crazy. But we're very lucky, right? Well, you're lucky. You kind of have to count your blessings every morning when you get up. I had a client of mine, buddy of mine, whatever, in Brian Woodward. Some of you may know Brian, and we were talking a few weeks ago on the phone. He goes, Wayne, this is really hard now. And I'm like, or it was always pretty easy to make a whole lot of money, and maybe we just never realized it, right? I think what this marketplace is forcing us to do is to become elite. We saw it happen in 2008 to 2011. In that market, we saw people get out of the business, right? However, it wasn't the people that we wanted to see get out of the business, was it? It wasn't the onesie twosie person. They didn't get out of the business. The people that got out from 2008 to 2011 were the people who did a very nice book of business. They just didn't do tons of it. And this was their primary source of income. It wasn't a side hustle for them, right? And this got really hard. And so they left the business. They didn't do tons of deals, either because they didn't know how to leverage their business or because they didn't want to do tons of deals, right? But the deals they did were clean. They were good people to work with, and they exited the business. I have a fear that we can see that happen again as this thing continues to grind on. And I'm going to show you some stats in a second that, and you may have already seen them, I don't know, but I'll show them to you again, because there's no indication that this thing is going to stop in the short term. Now the Fed did come out yesterday, I don't know if you saw this or not, and said that perhaps they were going to look at a move in rates earlier than they had anticipated, but they still said it was going to be sometime in 2022. They had originally said they weren't going to change monetary policy till the end of 2023. We were going to have a 0% interest rate. If you looked at rates yesterday, 15-year rate was 1.85, 30-year rate was 2.75. There's a little bit of an uptick after the Fed's announcement of yesterday. But the bottom line is, housing, even with the increase in sales prices, is more affordable right now than the 25-year running average of affordability of houses. So we talk about how in the world can this keep going? Rates have dropped so much that it's more affordable now to buy a house than the running average of the last 25 years. So a lot of people are going to continue to jump in. Now I did hear yesterday also, lumber prices are tumbling now. Did y'all hear that? Lumber prices have all of a sudden started tumbling. I read an article on the plane last night, and it said that the hoarders of lumber are now dumping their lumber because they don't want to get caught with it. And my understanding on the whole lumber thing from the beginning was there never was a shortage of lumber. They just seized the opportunity to restrict the supply of lumber. So a lot of things are in play. Here's my take on what's going to happen. Now, I'm just going to tell you, these are my thoughts. I have nothing to back this up. I have no statistical data for what I'm about to tell you. Buyers are tired, right? Buyers are going to start taking themselves out of the market a little bit, right? They've probably already done that. It's like, I don't want to play this game anymore. As long as rates stay down, they will do that. They will stay there. Once rates start to tick up, historically, when the pressure is for interest rates to rise, buyers get in the market, right? It's like I missed out on the 1.8, the 1.85 15-year or 2.75 30-year note, but now we're going back up, and I don't want to miss this whole thing. I better go get something purchased now, right? Because it's getting even harder to find rentals. In Springfield now, there's bidding wars on rental property. They're bidding those up just like they're bidding houses up. Then I think you have this silent inventory of sellers who are having that conversation about, you know what, this could be a once in a lifetime deal that we don't want to miss out on. But it's probably going to be worth more. It's worth more now than it was 6 months ago, which was more than a year ago. But I think I think there's a point in this deal where sellers are going to go, I think it's time. And so I think what will happen is it's kind of like a rainstorm. I don't know if you ever realize this about rainstorms. It's my own theory on rain too, from being a golfer. It'll rain, and then at the very end, on the very back side of a rain, it'll go and dump, and then it's over. I have a feeling that's what we have coming. I have a feeling, and I don't know when it's going to happen. Originally, I would have told you at the end of 2023, maybe it's sometime mid-year to late 2022. I think you will see this rainstorm surge happen, and then everything will kind of settle back to what we deem to be a normal market. There's my take on where we are. Yes?
I have a question. In other markets, is inventory truly, is less new inventory coming in the market than in the past? Because here, it's actually almost identical. We're actually up a little bit on new inventory coming, and I don't mean new house builds. I just mean homes coming in the market. We're actually up a little bit, just a little bit, but we're up a little bit. What about the rest of the country?
Most of the country is up. Did I put it in here? Hold on.
Sorry,
no, you're fine. I didn't. I can send you a. So I did a deal last week. A guy named Steve Harney. Anybody know who Steve Harney is? Okay. And I'll reference Steve a couple times today. How many of you subscribe to Keeping Current Matters? Keeping Current Matters. Y'all need to subscribe to Keeping Current Matters. Okay? The guy that founded it is a gentleman by the name of Steve Harney. And I'm going to talk about it later when we talk about past client systems. He has the most up-to-date, real-time data on the real estate industry nationwide. Nobody's even close. Steve's actually retired. I did a deal. We did a Zoom meeting last week for Remax Integra. And he spoke and then I spoke, but he had these unbelievable stats. So a lot of what I'll regurgitate to you today were actually Harney's stats. And speaking of that, Jason, let me just show you this. This is appreciation in the U.S. This year. Okay? Sales price appreciation. This is sales price appreciation in the U.S. And you can see, obviously, that it's going up everywhere, right? Missouri, we're at 11.9. Now, interestingly, I did a presentation in 2018 that was this exact same map. And in 2018, interestingly, there were 3 states that were predicted that the values would go down. And they were Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana because they were energy states. The rest of the country was all slated that home appreciation would continue on at an annualized rate of 2.6%. And all of the graphs and all of the predictors of all of these organizations said we should see year over year appreciation of about 2 to 3%, which is the norm, okay? And you can see state by state, and obviously you guys will get all this, right? I'll send these to you. We're at 11.9% right now. But here's the bigger one. The United States inventory is off 50%. In the state of Missouri, we're off 50.7%. Now, look at Utah. They're down 65%. Arizona, 63%. Idaho, 59%. Let me go back one. Look at the appreciation in Idaho. 23.7% appreciation this year. Isn't that crazy? It's the perfect storm. So and I don't know how much you guys are reading about all this, about how did we really get here, what happened. It was just kind of a confluence of things. You've got the millennials coming into home purchase age, right? We had interest rates drop dramatically. Then we had a pandemic. Then we had supply chain issues. And it's just like everything is just like this stew, right? And quite honestly, we're one of the industries that is a benefactor of this. But it doesn't mean it's not stressful. It doesn't mean it's not hard. It doesn't mean that you don't have to develop an athlete's mindset about this. I always talk about pros, tweeners, and rookies. I think the marketplace is going to force real estate agents to turn pro and to do the things that the elite athlete has to do. And we talked about this last time I was here, the practice, the constant getting better and thinking. And what I know right now from traveling around is, as a real estate agent in the field, you don't have time to think right now, do you? All you can do is react to the phone call, the text message, I got to see it now, this, that, and the other. So I would agree with Mel, you need to read more. Because I'll tell all my broker clients, I'm like, look, you guys got to bring strategy to the table. You got to bring strategy to the table for your people, because right now, as a realtor, you don't have time to devise a game plan on this deal. You got to deal in the here and now and get it going. Buckle up. It ain't changing for a while. Okay? We're not going to get rid of the onesie-twosie real estate agent in this deal. We can't seem to figure out a model to get rid of the agent who sells 2 houses a year.
Increase dues.
Well, yeah, but the industry, okay, so this could lead into a whole other presentation.
They're all joining our board.
Because we're cheap.
Exactly what I said. I got voted down on the board.
Just so you know, this isn't a new dynamic. I was asked to leave the Greater Springfield Board of Realtors 20 years ago for proposing that we raise dues. They told me I was too controversial.
Right.
Our AE stood up and she goes, I have great news. We have 2,300 realtors now. Isn't that awesome? And I go, no, that sucks. It's awful. And I said, I'm going to make a motion. Whatever your revenue stream is at 2,300 people, let's figure out what the dues would have to be to go to like 60% of those people. Let's jack dues up to that and see who really wants to play. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that, right? And so, this is part of toward the end of this part of what I'm going to talk about. I'm a huge proponent of buyer agency agreements. If you've been around me at all, you know that. There's a law that says in Missouri you can't put a sign in front of a property without a listing agreement, right? It's illegal. Can't do it. There's not a law that says you can't work with buyers without an agreement. I think there ought to be a law that says you can't work with a buyer without an agreement. But that'll never happen. Because the majority of agents that don't do very much, that do 1 or 2 deals a year, they work with buyers. Well, they don't know how to get people to sign a buyer agreement, so they would never do it. So they would leave the industry, and then we'd have the dues revenue. Because the thing's driven by dues, let's just be frank, right? This industry is driven by dues paying members, paying into local board. And is somebody in here president of the board or something? Okay, good.
It's okay, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I've already opened it up now. Anyway, local boards, state associations, NAR, it's all driven by dues paying members, right? So while the industry talks a good game, they don't want a few people to get good at this. They're all going to lose their salaries. So there you go. There's my comment. However, if you keep preaching, if you turn pro, right, what I refer to as turning pro, I would say for all of you, for all of us, there is no difference between what you do and Michael Phelps or Serena Williams or Simone Biles, who's getting ready to go to the Olympics, or Tiger Woods, or any athlete that you want to name. There's no difference. That was their chosen field to be elite. And they always knew the rules of their game going in. They had to be elite. Because if you're not elite, it's a true meritocracy, right? If you're not great, you're going to get eliminated. Our industry doesn't do that. We bring us your huddled masses, and surely you got a couple of buddies you can stumble your way through a house deal on. But for you, this is your chosen field to be elite. And it operates by the same rules as a professional athlete or the Olympian or whatever you want to say. And we talked about this last time, and I don't remember the number. Do you remember what the number was, Jason, of the number of minutes of practice?
Of what, the football? Gosh, we broke it down.
I know we did. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you to do it again. I'm going to write it down this time because I think I'm close, but I've used it all over the country in talking to people about that, right? That we have to practice more. We have to get better at this. And I think what's happening to us now is this marketplace is demanding it. Because there's dynamics now happening that have never happened in real estate. You have buyers getting mad at you because they didn't get a house, right? Well, if you were on the listing side and their house didn't sell, it was always our fault. I mean, that was just a rule, right? It's like, oh, well, it's your fault. I'm going to go find me somebody with more marketing or whatever. Not with buyers, though. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to go find somebody that has a better strategy for me, right? So I'm going to lay out a couple of strategies for you today. But it's like opposite day now. All of the rules that we have in a traditional market, take them and literally flip them over because this marketplace is different. And yet, what I'm going to talk about today is I want you to be prepared for every market. Because if you're consistent, you're always prepared for every market. I mean, the things that I'm going to lay out today, I'm not going to tell you anything new. You know all this. But there's a gap between what we know intellectually and what we behaviorally do. And moving forward, at some point, you just have to figure out, am I going to do the things day in, day out that it takes for me to get there long term? Or am I going to play the long game once and for all? Because honestly, real estate sales is kind of the short game. It's like I got a client, I take them out, I sell them a house, I make tens of thousands of dollars. I get another client, I take them out, I make tens of thousands of dollars. Oh, I got a phone call from a referral, it's a listing, I make tens of thousands of dollars. And we need to layer in, like an Olympic athlete, where an Olympic athlete would work for 4 years for that 2-week time period when they finally get to perform. And that's mentally, I think that's where we all have to go. I think the marketplace is demanding it. Okay, so inventory is way down, prices are up, it's crazy, and we're lucky, right? So there's a voice inside you that whispers all day long what's right for you. And if you've ever heard me speak before, you know that is the common theme. I think we all have a sweet spot, folks. We all have a place that we thrive. We all have a place where we know the rules. We all have a place that we enjoy. And it's different for all of us. I told Jeff, I sent Jeff a picture of this book. Mike Metzner gave these books out in Michigan the other day to all of his people. Anybody seen this book? Simon, of course, I love Simon Sinek. If you read it all, you'll love Simon Sinek if you've never read any of his stuff. But it's called Together is Better. It's a really quick little 30-minute book. But about the 4th page in, it says, if you don't plan on doing, let me just find it because I don't want to misquote it. Hold on. Sorry, I should have had this marked already. Okay, this is getting awkward now. Oh, here we go. If you say your job is something you don't plan on doing forever, then why are you doing it now? I think that's very powerful, right? I think that's very powerful. The whole little book's really powerful. Steve Jobs said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become, and everything else is secondary. If you've I know I've told you guys this before. If you've never read the biography Jobs by Walter Isaacson about Steve Jobs, you should go get that. But this is the biggest thing to me. It's Colin Cowherd, The Herd. Anybody who listens to sports radio, he's a sports guy. Most people go through their whole life and never get leverage, and that's sad. But what's worse is when you have leverage and you don't use it. And I would contend that right now, for most realtors, you don't feel like you have leverage. You feel like you have to react to every phone call that happens all the time, right? It's very stressful. And I'm here to tell you today, you got tons of leverage. I'm going to try to show you what it is and show you how to use it. You have leverage. So Colin Cowherd would say that it's even more sad if you have leverage and don't use it. Middle of a technological revolution. Average income per agent is not going up. We're just getting more agents in, right? But the average income per realtor is not really going up all that much. Now, you guys are not normal. I'm guessing your numbers are way up. The number of transactions per agent nationally does not increase, and the average number of hours worked per agent has not decreased. I'm assuming in this moment right now, y'all are working more hours than you've worked in a long time, aren't you? I got a client in Rhode Island, and she said, you know, Wayne, this market's just weird. Her word was weird. She went beyond crazy and went to weird. And she goes, I never found myself really kind of enjoying the fact that I'd sold my last listing and didn't have any right now, because I could sit in my backyard on a Sunday and just look around. Yeah. She goes, it's really weird. She goes, all of the things that used to stress me out, now I look forward to.
I think Tom Ferry said in his little blueprint thing last week that 40% of agents haven't sold anything this year.
Yeah. Tammy said that Tom Ferry said last week, 40% of realtors haven't sold anything this year. It's always been that way. That's actually a better number than most years.
When we're like running crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys are pros. And they're not. It used to really bother me. I was like, we got to figure out a way to get all these people out of the industry. And finally, I just realized we're not going to do it, right? I mean, one of the hardest parts of being a realtor, and you guys know this, I know, is you have to be nice to those people.
Yes.
Well, you do. I mean,
Biggest challenge.
oh yeah, no, that's actually, but the biggest challenge in a transaction is being overly nice to that other agent on the other side who has no idea what they're doing, did nothing to help the transaction. You did all the work. Well, get over it. If you're good at this and you're a pro, you're going to do all the work. And you're going to give half your money to the other blivet that may not even show up for the closing because they forgot when it was. I mean, when if the number used to be like 70, 80% of the agents hadn't done a deal so far this year. You can look at virtually any board of realtors, you'll find this unbelievable list of people that haven't done a deal. You'll find an even bigger list of people that do like 2 a year. So think about it. If you do 2 transactions a year and you haven't done a deal yet, you're right on pace. You're good. No stress for you. I still got the rest of the month of June to try to pull one down to click off my first deal for the first 6 months.
Wayne, I ran the report this last week. We've got over about 1,000 agents. There was 414 total that showed up on the transaction agent production.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those that are duplicates or out of area.
Right.
We're about 60% of that. I'll be right, yeah.
That's nationwide. Yeah.
So what's a blivet?
A blivet? a blivet, a nimrod, a knucklehead, somebody that's not the sharpest tool in the shed, something like that. Oh, no. Yeah, you can tell. You're such a blivet. Yeah. Okay. What's your biggest challenge in goal achievement? It's consistent action. See, what I know about a lot of those onesie-twosie people is they could be elite if they chose to. Whatever you see someone doing, you can go do it, right? Because there is really no bias in our industry. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter whether you're young or old, tall or short, fat or skinny, college degreed or barely got out of high school. It just doesn't matter. Can you just grasp the basic skill set of be good, be nice, and stay in touch with people? Be good, be nice, stay in touch. Be good, be nice, stay in touch. If you're just good at what you do, you're very nice to everyone you meet, including the agents that are knuckleheads, and you stay in touch with people, your business will grow. So many people talk all the time about trying to scale. I've got to scale. And I'm like, just bring value. If you just focus on bringing value, every day you try to bring value to the people you talk to, your business will scale. It'll have to, because more and more people will refer you business. But only if you're good at what you do, you're nice to people, and you stay in touch with them. Now, the being good at what you do, how do we do that? We practice, just like the Olympic athlete does. You have to practice. And we don't practice as an industry. We just don't. Garage bands practice more than we do. We hit the ground running, we stumble into people, and right? And you have to be nice to everyone. I had an agent, and we all know who these people are. I get kind of snarky in a deal. And I have a really good friend, and she's just not nice. I mean, she's just not nice. And she wears it like a badge. And you've seen people like this, I know. And I happened to run into her at a bar, restaurant, whatever, and she had this new agent. So what's the one thing, Wayne, so these guys are trained, I'm like, yeah, whatever. What's the one thing you would tell her? I go, be good, be nice, stay in touch. That's it. That's all you need to know. Be good, be nice, stay in touch. This person goes, well, I'm good, and I stay in touch. And I'm like, and you'd done a lot better if you'd have been nice. If you'd been nice to people, you'd do a lot better, right? Real estate salespeople are consistently the most inconsistent group of people on the planet, and yet we know that consistency is the key to the game, and that is the epitome of the intellectual behavioral gap. How many of you feel like you know you could do more if you could just figure out a way to be more consistent? Okay, so we know this, so I got to try to show you ways that you can be more consistent. Because you'll only take consistent action on what you believe in, what you're equipped to do, and what is in tune with who you are. That's a fact. People that are doing life at a high level understand who they are, they understand where they thrive, they try to spend as much time in their sweet spot as they possibly can. They try to stay away from or delegate things that are not their sweet spot. Does behavior style matter? I was going to have you take it, but we did the Alessandra test last time I was here, so I'm not going to have you take it again. I will tell you, however, the same story I told you last time, because it's such a big deal. So when I was running RE/MAX House of Brokers in Springfield, I looked at the top people in the office. They were all doing about the same level of production. And I gave them all behavior tests. And long story short, I figured out that what they were doing was in direct harmony with their behavior test, although they didn't even realize it. In other words, they were doing things that just came naturally to them. They were driving their business that way. When I went to the next tier of people in the office that weren't doing as much production, I started to see disparity between what I knew they were doing in their business and what probably they should be doing. When I went to the bottom tier of people, it was like an X. They were trying to do things that they were never going to consistently do. Some of us would be a lot better off if somebody made us do the things we know we needed to do. I don't, however, like the word accountability. I just need someone to hold me accountable. You don't need people to hold you accountable to do the things you like to do. I don't need somebody to call me and go, you should really go play golf this weekend. Wayne, come on, get out there and go play golf. No, that is going to happen, right? You don't need people to hold you accountable on the stuff you like. What you need to do is design a business model around the stuff you like. And then always remember to be good, be nice, and stay in touch, and it will always work. There's always room for talented people in real estate, isn't there? Always. Talented people get into our industry, and they're like, hey, this is a pretty cool gig. And then the marketplace just like gets out of your way. It's like, oh, where'd they come from? We should give them some space now. And before you know it, they're a name, they're a player in the marketplace. So there's different types of people. There are some people that are very open, right? They show and share their feelings freely. They go with the flow. They're very tactful. They're animated. They're relaxed and warm. The conversation will just go everywhere. Their listing presentations can be like 4 hours long. They'll talk about the dog, the whole deal. They're very easy to get to know. They initiate physical contact. They're the huggers of the world, right? And they show more enthusiasm than average. Do you feel like that's you? Because if it is, one of your biggest fears is rejection. And you'll have to spend more marketing dollars than some of the other behavior styles. Okay? So I would lay out open behavior people as when you get an invitation to a party, you can't wait to go. And when the doors open up to the party, you're like, there's so many people here, this is going to be so much fun. I'm going to meet them all. And you work the room at the party, and then finally it's time to go, and you're so sad it's over. Then you have self-contained people. Now they keep their feelings private. They're very much into process and details. They're formal and proper. They go with whatever the agenda is. They never challenge the agenda. Less enthusiasm, limited range of facial expressions. They don't like it when the huggers come up and hug them. They kind of tense up a little bit. They speak very much in specifics. They're fact-oriented, and they're very formal. They get an invitation to a party, and they're like, oh, do I have to go do this? Right? Then we have indirect behavior. Infrequent use of gestures. They make very qualified statements. They read consumer reports. When they decide to buy a car, it's all about the data of the car and the gas mileage. These are the engineers of the world, right? They are kryptonite to most real estate agents. It's the way that they're wired. And then lastly, you have direct people. The other three behavior styles can all get along just fine. Direct people, we're on an island. Okay? Direct people, we frequently use gestures and voice intonation to emphasize points. We make emphatic statements, whether they're even true or not. We just say it strongly enough, you'll just believe us and move on. We emphasize through voice intonation. More likely to just walk up and go, hey, how are you? I'm Wayne. Expresses opinions readily. They're full of opinions, and they think everybody needs to hear them. Very competitive people. High D people are extremely competitive. Initial eye contact is sustained. They'll just stare at you. They have a very firm handshake. Frequent contributor to a group. Like if there's a group conversation going on, they're going to get their opinion in there because you're going to need to hear it. How many people believe that you're a high D person or a direct person? How many of those people? You don't have to. Okay. In that world, you tend to gravitate more toward the listing side of the equation as a realtor. You tend to enjoy the listing side more than the buyer side. How many of you feel like that you're more open? Get the invitation to the party. You will tend to gravitate more toward the buyer side. You enjoy putting people in your car and learning all about their lives. The direct people, we do not enjoy chit-chatting about your life. I don't care. Right? And I'm serious. I think there's so much to this in our industry because all of the studies that I've ever read say that you can move your behavior style up until you're in your early 30s, and after that it's game over. You ain't changing, right? You can be appropriate in the moment, but you're not going to become this direct person if you've always been, more meek and mild, right? You're just not going to. So my work has always been to try to help people say, hey, here's your possible options. Which one of these do you think would work for you, right? So if we use a party analogy for a second, so direct people, if they don't want to go to the party, they just don't go. And they don't RSVP. It's just like, I don't want to go. I don't see any need to go. Open behavior people will always go to the party and they'll work the room, okay? People who are self-contained, those are the people that always stay after the party and help the host clean up. Okay, if you're one of those people, you tend to be self-contained. And then the indirect people, these are the people that would be very correct. They're the ones that we can't have a party unless we know what it's going to cost and what the budget is. Okay, it's kind of my little party analogy. But this plays out so much in what you watch people do in their businesses, right? Only when one has mastered self can one begin to master anyone or anything else. One of my favorite quotes. I don't know who Balthasar Gracian was, but he had a great quote. And what this quote really means is, when you got yourself all figured out, now you've earned the right to go tell other people what they ought to be doing. Which we know you're never going to have yourself all figured out, so you never have the right to go tell anybody else what they should ever be doing. And yet, it's what we see people do all the time, right?
Preach it, brother.
Huh?
I said preach it, brother.
I've always had this theory in life. I have a lot of life theories. But one of them was that our biggest quest in life is to be valid. And our biggest fear in life is to be exposed. And we use the same methodology to accomplish both, and that's we run around every day telling other people what they ought to be doing. And we do it pretty forcefully, and that way I feel valid when I tell you, I think you should do this, right? And also, if I say it forcefully enough, you won't question me on it, on what I said, and I won't get exposed. I've never understood people who live their lives vicariously through other people. Any NASCAR fans in the room? Like big NASCAR fans? Like you wear the hats and the jackets and the stuff? Okay, because I've never understood that. You hear about these NASCAR people getting in fights over my driver, your driver, and they get in a stinking fist fight. I've also never understood people, no offense as a former professional athlete, but I've never understood people going to football games with the jerseys on. Somehow I'm going to get this connection with you. I'm going to go out, I'm going to watch someone who stayed focused and knew what they wanted to do, and because I don't do that in my life, I can at least wear your jersey. That'll make me feel better. Makes me feel valid. Sorry, that's just a rant. We're going to edit that out of the tape, right? This is your gig, man. This is your life. Live it. Have rules. Run your life. Once and for all, run your life. It'll work. Always has. Don't do stuff you don't want to do. I say the same things over and over again. I'm like a broken record. I have a three-legged stool for my life at this point. I run all my decisions against my three-legged stool. I have to enjoy the work. There's a monetary component to it, and I have to have complete freedom. And if it violates any of the three of them, I'm going to tell you no, and I'll tell you no quick. Tell me what it is, and nope, it's going to violate. Because I look at it like a stool, because if you think about a three-legged stool, and if one of the legs gets a lot bigger than the other, there's a lot of money in it, but I wouldn't have any freedom, my stool's going to tip over. That's just me. It's my life. I've been lucky enough, and you all have too, to be around people who run their lives, literally run their lives. One of the epitomes of it is Dennis Curtin. Dennis runs his life. It's awesome. The challenges are that we'll only take action on what we believe in and what we're equipped to do. So we'll only take action consistently on the ideas that resonate with us, and then we'll only consistently take that action if we go learn what we need to learn to be able to maximize that. We get it intellectually, but not behaviorally. We've talked about that. You learned everything you didn't know about goal setting by about the 3rd grade, and that was just when they said, what's the quickest way to get from point A to point B, and it's a straight line. And that means you got to just do a little bit every day. And as long as you do a little bit every day, you'll get there. There's no unrealistic goal, just lack of a plan that you will implement. You want to go from 0 to $1 million in sales? In commissions, not in sales. $1 million in commissions in a year? You can do it. We could model out what you would have to do it. Then the only questions are, because it would take money, do you have the monetary capacity to be able to implement the plan? But you could do it. Because I will guarantee you there is someone that started in real estate in 2020 and they did $1 million. I had a guy, I was in Indiana last week. Guy comes up to me at a break. And he says, can I talk to you for a second? I'm like, well, sure. And he said, I need to know if you think it's okay for me to quit my regular job. Now, I'm an outlier on this whole full-time realtor stuff. I think being a real estate agent is the greatest part-time job ever in normal markets, right? You get to do what you want to do when you want to do it as a real estate agent. You don't have to punch a clock. You don't have any of that stuff going on. And I said, well, that's a really big question that you've just asked me. Talk to me about your business. He said, well, I've been in 7 months and I've closed right at $5 million in 7 months. I said, first 7 months in the industry? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I just need to know if you think I can quit my job. He said, I work second shift at Stryker. I make medical devices. And the other guy is standing there with him. And he goes, whatever you tell him to do, tell him he can't leave my team. I'm like, okay. And I go, well, how about you? And the guy goes, well, this is really cool. He said, I work second shift at Stryker. And he goes, he said, what you're telling resonates with me, because he said, I wake up in the morning, before I go work second shift, and I'm like, bam, 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 I got all my stuff that I do. And he goes, and then when I go to work, then he covers for me. And the team leader goes, yeah, I work third shift at Stryker. And I was like, I said, the only challenge you have is quite simple. You need to be crystal clear that once you get rid of your second shift job, that you know what you're going to do with that time, or are you going to sit there and fiddle around and let what you did in the morning now take up an entire day? Because I said your business will crater. So I said it's a much deeper conversation, right? But I had a guy one time, he made $100,000 his first 12 months in real estate, which is a good number. And he worked full-time at a body shop. He was a service writer at a body shop. And the only time he had to sell property was on weekends. And he made $100,000 selling property only on weekends. He worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And then he quit the body shop. And his income went to $30,000 the next year in real estate, full time. And he goes, what do I need to do? And I said, you need to go back and work at the body shop again. Because it was classic, right? It was like, well, now I have time, I don't have to do that just yet, right? That's the bridge, right? That's the thing that we have to do. And the beautiful part of this industry is anybody can do it. It doesn't happen over time, right? It doesn't happen over time. You make the decision to do it. How many years were you in the business, because I somewhat know the story, how many years were you in the business before you made the decision to get after it, or what I would call getting after it?
Probably 5.
5 years. First 5 years you were an agent, you were doing pretty well.
Oh, I had a ceiling though.
Yeah.
I could only do so much.
Could only do so much.
Only do so much.
And if you did that, and probably if you're like most people in this industry, if you did that much in the first 2 months of the year, you'd have probably taken the last 10 months off. I used to watch this at the regional level. If somebody made 100,000 a year, if they made 100 by June, they'd make like 105, right? So what changed?
Mel.
See, okay, that's awesome. I heard it was Frank.
It was Frank as well. But
Did you really walk into Frank's office that day and he had your license sitting on his desk? Is that a true story?
several things happened.
Okay.
One was I left the brokerage I was at and joined Frank, and all of a sudden I saw people doing things that I never knew were possible. Didn't know.
Yeah.
It was never explained. It was never open. The other was Mel, because she was open-minded to I was very closed-minded. I literally thought when I moved from this brokerage to this brokerage, my business would go down, not up, mentally.
Okay.
At first I thought, well, if I can just do as much as I did last year, I'll be okay, I'll survive. I didn't see a big change, a big ability. I did 2 or 3 million for the first 5 years and never thought that it was possible to do twice that, 3 times that, whatever. So just an exposure, just a different atmosphere of thinkers and people that were willing to help. That was most of it. It wasn't ability. It was consistency and the understanding that it can be done, that it's out there.
Yeah, which was to say, it's my same story of joining Remax. We joined Remax. I was getting out of the business, and I went to Branson, Missouri, to a mid-states meeting, and one of the speakers was a lady. She was an agent from around the Chicago area named Lauren Harper Hayden. And we're cocktail party thing. Oh, you're from the new office. Oh yeah, well, how many deals do you do? I'm like, well, like 15, 16 a year. Like, I'm a big player. And she goes, you know what, if that's your comfort level, that's awesome. I go, well, how many do you do? Well, I do like 100 transactions a year. Well, there was no one in our market. Now, granted, this is 1990. There's nobody in our market doing 100 transactions. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a different gig. And to me, that's always been the secret sauce of Remax, right? That's why I work in this space. It's because it is a different level of thinking. It is more about what the possibilities are. It is that abundance mentality, right? But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision personally that you're going to go get after it, right? Because we see people that get in the Remax setting and they don't make the decision. I really thought when I first got in real estate, it was just like time served. Like if I do this long enough, it'll kick in. I'll do a little bit more business every year. And then I met Cliff Krapenhoft, and Cliff had been in the business for 40 years and he was still doing like $1 million a year. And I'm like, well, this must not be something that really just grows over time. And I would just say for everybody in the room, wherever you are, there's way more capacity if you'll get after it. If you decide you want to. I mean, to me, that's the thing, right? It's just decide you want to. Okay. If you want to be willing to improve, you got to be willing to change your current disciplines, perhaps. Perhaps change some habits, relationships, skills, scripting, systems, technology, environment. Being you got you to wherever you are in this room today. Another cool little factoid out of the book that I just got. That's why I end up rewriting these things at the 11th hour, because I always get new information. I'm like, oh, that's good. We got to put that in. It speaks to this so much that if you're really a team, right, you really work together. One of the comments in here says something to the effect of, you should want people to challenge you. You should want to have to defend why you're doing it. You should embrace those conversations. As Andy Andrews would say, people are always saying, you just need to take me as I am. And he's like, man, the guy at the drive-thru at McDonald's takes you as you are because he doesn't care. You want people that'll challenge you. You want people to make you back up your stuff, right? Okay. Two outcomes of learning. Learning to just be able to spew facts, Jeopardy champion, or gaining knowledge so that you can go be the person that you want to be, because we all can. I will say that, you know, Michael Phelps is Michael Phelps. Now, I've seen Michael Phelps up close in real life. He was born to be a swimmer. His hands are just like meat hooks, and his feet are like flippers. I mean, he was like, we got to put this kid, seriously, we got to put this kid in the pool. I saw him, I was out in Scottsdale, and I was talking to a guy, and somebody walked behind me, and he goes, that's Michael Phelps. I'm like, oh, it is. He's like, shoulders are like this wide, his waist is like this big. And then I've seen pictures of his hands, and they talked about his feet, that like they're like size like 29 or something, and they're just like these. No, seriously, he's like freakishly was. Same thing with Ted Williams in baseball, right? Last guy to hit over 400. I know I've talked to you about him before. He had freakishly good eyesight, so he could see the pitches better than everybody else could. We all have something like that in us, don't we? We all got something we're good at. We all have something that every time you get up there and you get ready to do it, oh, this is a can of corn. This is easy. I got this. And it won't be the same for all of us. Because when you get the knowledge that you need to in what you're trying to do, now you'll be more likely to take action. See, I believe that the only reason that we don't take the action that's in our heads is because we just don't understand it like we should. We haven't studied it like we should. We haven't read enough. Action will lead to results. It always does. It'll create habits, mastery, confidence, and effective action. It's not about gaining an understanding of the basics. It's about mastering the basics. It's about constantly getting data and running your business model against the new data that you have. How many people have downloaded the National Association of Realtors Profile of Buyers and Sellers for 2020? I know you all are busy, right? Go to Realtor, congratulations. Go to Realtor.org and download the 2020, and get in the habit of downloading it every year. The 2020 Profile of Buyers and Sellers. It's the one good piece of work that I think NAR does. They survey buyers and sellers. There's a wealth of knowledge and information in that report about the way people are really doing this, right? About what the rules of the game are. So then we can develop hopefully more effective strategies in working within those rules of the game. And one of the things that came out of the report was the various ways that people found their realtor. And the number is somewhere like 4% of the people found their realtor through social media without a prior connection to that person. So at some level, it sounds like social media is a way to fortify relationships we already have, but it may not be a way effectively unless you've got money, so you can be boosting posts and things like that, right? So a lot of the things sometimes that are sexy in real estate, when you really analyze them and you run them against a model, it's like, well, this ain't gonna work. Now it was interesting because this gentleman that came up to me that works second shift, he goes, all my business is through Facebook. And he goes, it is with people I don't know. I go, what are you doing? And the team leader goes, he's the only Hispanic guy in our market. And there's a huge Hispanic community. I'm like, oh, good for you, dude. Way to go. And that's when I looked at him, I go, you can probably quit your job at Stryker if you want to, right? He's like, I'm making $40 an hour and I got benefits. So, all right, past client referral systems. Here's what I'm seeing happen in the market right now. The fact that agents do not have strong past client systems is getting exposed on a daily basis. This is the reason that the mid-range producer gets squeezed out on these markets every time. Is because the client doesn't feel the need to bring you into a transaction. when someone else has contacted them that actually has a buyer. They don't feel the need to bring you in. I'll talk later about the strategy that I'll lay out for you guys to use that people are using that actually works. But it's like, well, Wayne's a good guy, you know, should we call Wayne? But we just got this letter from this person that has a buyer. Should we bring Wayne in? You know, I mean, we got a calendar from him at Christmas and we got those refrigerator magnets. And he'll probably bring us a flag, you know, in a couple of weeks for the 4th of July. And this is why I think you need to subscribe to Keeping Current Matters. Because it is the one-stop shop to me, and I don't get any money from saying this. I just think it's awesome. It's the one-stop shop for you to be able to send really great information about real estate to your clients. That's where those 2 graphs came from, was Keeping Current Matters. That's the level that you need to do right now, so that when people get a contact from somebody else, they call you and they say, hey, Tammy, I got this letter. Call this agent and see if they really have a buyer. Got to fortify those relationships, guys. By the way, I will tell you, for the people that I have that are sending the letter out, it's very rare, almost non-existent, when another agent calls them and says, hey, my client got your letter. But they're getting a tremendous number of calls from these people saying, do you really have a buyer? I'll show you later what the letter is and why it works, why it's working. Truth number 1 is you can be nice and never build a referral business. Truth number 2 is you can be really good at this and never build a referral business. Because the key to it, as I said earlier, is the 3rd piece of the puzzle. Be good, be nice, stay in touch. So I'll go down my line of questioning. I always go. Raise your hand if I'm one of your guys and I hear from you more than 24 times a year. I'm one of your people more than 24 times a year. Okay. More than 16, 18 times a year. More than 12 times a year. Your business is on the chopping block is probably a too extensive a way to say that, but odds are pretty good that as this thing continues on and more people get more and more aggressive, the question is, are your clients going to feel the need to bring you into the transaction? And the only way to shore that up is to shore up the quality and the frequency of the contacts to those people. What trend had the most impact on real estate in the last 10 years? Anyone? Online information. Online information portals. According to the NAR profile of buyers and sellers, 97% of people start online. That's a staggering number, isn't it? 97% of the people start online. That's their first move. They go online. They go on Zillow, they go on Trulia, maybe Realtor.com, you know, whatever those things are. That model is designed to get between you and your people. That model is based on the fact that they realized long ago that individual small business people do not stay in contact with their people. We spend disproportionate amounts of money trying to find new people rather than just making sure we massively take care of the people that we already have. That created the wedge for Zillow to run through. Relationship model is about 3 issues. Number 1, it's smaller databases, it's not bigger ones. If you don't have vibrant information on somebody, if you look through your database and go, well, I wonder who they are, just delete them. Because as salespeople, we always believe the relationship is deeper than they think it is anyway. And if we don't even know who they are, there ain't no way they know who you are. Number 2, it's about increasing the contacts to a smaller database of people. And number 3, it's higher quality contacts, and that's why you ought to subscribe to Keeping Current Matters. If you had internalized quotes or you had a postcard that had one of the guys at JP Morgan saying that they're predicting that this is not going to slow down, it is not a bubble, and you would have that if you subscribe to Keeping Current Matters. And all of a sudden, it's a third party telling you this rather than, well, Tammy, you're just telling me that because you want me to go buy something. You just want a sale. No, I'm just, people are saying, I want to take myself out of the market for a while. How long? What are you thinking, a couple months? Well, it ain't going to change in a couple months. A couple of years? You want to stop for a couple of years, we're probably okay. One of the stats that Harney laid out, even if interest rates go to 3.5%, this will really not slow this thing down all that much. We will still be at the bottom. So I think in today's market, you got to turn pro. The market's forcing us to turn pro, and having this third-party information is really helpful, and I think the more that you send that out to your clients, right? As somebody from New Jersey said to me not long ago when we were talking about, making sure that people understand the vibrancy of the market, and she was like, Wayne, everybody knows how overheated real estate is. It's all over Facebook. And I'm like, well, it's all over my Facebook feed and your Facebook feed because we're in the real estate business. But I said, there could be some big thing going on in insurance, and I would have no idea because all my friends aren't insurance people. Just because we know how hot it is, you still get people that call every day, I hear real estate's really good. Is it really that good, right? For years, we've suffered from database creep. That's just these big databases of people we sporadically contact. You got to build and fortify relationships with people. Law of Category, a great book, 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. If you've never read it, Al Reese and Jack Trout. And they say if you can't be number one in a category, create a category you can be number one in. What's the category that every person in this room can be number one in? You can be number one in the minds of your past clients. Because you did a good job, you were very nice, and you stay in touch. But the law of category is huge, and in the book they lay out the question, who was the first person to fly solo? Now you've seen this before, so who was it? Who was the first person to fly solo across the Atlantic? Come on, we're Missourians. We're supposed to know this. It was Lucky Lindbergh, the Spirit of St. Louis. It's hanging in the St. Louis airport, his plane. Who was the second person to fly solo across the Atlantic? Yeah, nobody knows. It was this poor sap. His name's Bert Hinkler. And he did it faster than Lindbergh, and he used less fuel.
But he didn't have a nickname.
And no, nobody cared. It had already been done, right?
That's why we don't remember it.
That's why we don't remember him. Nobody cared. Who was third? Amelia Earhart.
I didn't think she made it.
She made it across the Atlantic,
Oh, okay.
and then she crashed. And my contention is the only reason that anybody cared that she crashed, honestly, was the fact that she was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. You can use this analogy all down the road. Who was the first person to run the sub 4-minute mile? Does anybody remember that? The guy named Roger Bannister. Bannister ran the first 4 sub-minute mile. What's the record for the mile right now? Who knows, right?
A whole lot faster.
Not proportionately. It's still like 352, 349, something like that. You know the name Oscar Pistorius? You remember him? What was he famous for? He was the Blade Runner. He was a Blade Runner in the Olympics. He lost both his legs and he ran on blades and he made it to the Olympics.
That was before he killed his wife.
And then he supposedly killed his wife. But nobody would have known about that. It'd be like some Olympian somewhere maybe killed his wife. I don't think they ever convicted him of it. But anyway, it was because he was in a category. What's your category for it's your people, right? But what are you doing every day to fortify those relationships with your people? Or are you out there buying leads, right? Or are you spending a bunch of money on Facebook trying to promote all your stuff out there to Facebook to a bunch of people that you don't know? Now, it's a marketing play. There's no doubt about it. I get it. But please spend as much time fortifying the relationships with your people. Because here's how it works. The general public doesn't know you, doesn't like you. You're an interchangeable piece to them, right? You're an interchangeable piece. I hear it all the time and listen to Zillow calls with my clients. You're an interchangeable piece. Then we all have a lot of acquaintances, it seems like. Given the chance they'd use you, given the chance they'll use somebody else. Then you have your network. They'll always use you, but they may or may not be telling their friends to use you. And then ultimately you have your advocates, right? So within your acquaintances, there's network. Within your network, there are advocates. What I know is the next time you have a closing, that person's an advocate for you. You did a great job, right? They would refer their friends to you tomorrow if one of their friends said, who should I use? Your name's top of mind. What we know is you do not stay there with them. Over time, you move back out to be part of the network, then an acquaintance, then back out to the general public. Then they go back out to Zillow again and they get somebody else and you lost them and you never even knew. And this is the core thing that we need to shore up. So just remember, be good, be nice, and stay in touch. I think there's only two nets that matter in life. Net income and net time. I don't think it's noble to work 80 hours a week as a realtor. Now, I get it. In this moment, in this market, you got to do what you got to do. But that shouldn't be the goal. That shouldn't be the business plan. The business plan should be, I'm going to take really great care of my people and they're going to help feed my business as long as I continue to bring value to them. I'm going to learn how to say no early. I'm not going to do things I don't want to do anymore. I'm going to learn how to explain to you why I don't do things that don't work for me. Whatever piece of the business you don't like to do, you don't have to do it anymore. Period. I swear to you, I can prove it to you. You do not have to do it anymore, but you have to take control of your life and of your business. And you got to get really good at doing the things you enjoy. And be able to defend them to me all day long about why you do things the way you do. That's why I always laugh. I'm like, I'm a broken record. I say the same thing to everybody because it's what I believe to be true. So here's the program. How many of you have a database of more than 500 people? Okay, here's a little model for you. Take your 500, and you believe they're your guys. No? Then why are they in your database?
Just learning.
Okay. So out of those 500, how many know you, like you, and want to deal with you? How many are your guys? Do we know? So here's the model, and then we can do some backwards math, and I can tell you exactly how many of those people know you, like you, and want to deal with you. Okay? So the model says this: that for every person that's in your database, they know 5 people in the course of a year who will buy or sell something. Maybe it's land, maybe it's, they just know 5 people do a real estate deal. Okay? Take that number times 5%. Acknowledging that 95% of the time you don't get the deal, you don't get the lead, they do something with somebody else, whatever. Okay? So if you have 500 people in your database, times 5 is 2,500. Times 5% is 125 transactions strictly by referral in the last 12 months. And if you didn't do 125 transactions, you don't have 500 people who know you, like you, and want to deal with you. You may have 500 names in a database. But take the number of deals that you did last year by referral, whatever that number is, and then do the math backwards. Okay? So if you did, 20 deals by referral, divide that by 5%. That be the right math? I can do it on a calculator. I don't know if I can do it in my head. Divide that by 5% and then take that number, divide it by 5. That'll tell you how many people you really had. So what happens to us is we get these big databases of people. We don't really know who our advocates are, who our network is. We have a lot of acquaintances, and we treat them all the same. And that's the challenge. And it's the challenge of small business. It's not a real estate phenomenon. It's small business in general. My wife runs a spa. They do the same thing at the spa. They have people that spend $2,000 a month at their spa, which is shocking to me. I can't fathom it, but they do. But they don't treat them special. They get invited to the same thing as the person who got a massage there 3 years ago. And I'm like, you guys need to fix this. You need to have like this black tie event for these people spending $24,000 a year with you. They are your advocates, right? Well, we need to be doing exactly the same thing. So reduce your database to only those people you know and you want to deal with. You see a name in your database, you go through your database. This should be kind of a regular occurrence. You see somebody in your database and as soon as you see their name, you're like, oh, it conjures up just these horrible memories. Just delete them. It's okay, just delete them. Send a first mailing out, and yes, this is mail because it does get a higher response. I know it's weird, it's crazy. With a survey and a self-addressed stamped envelope, you send them a thank you note. What we're trying to do is you're just going to blast this out to everybody in your database, and let's see who wants to play the game. Who will fill out your client survey and send it back to you. Now, there's going to be a hook in there, right? They're going to send them to dinner if they're willing to do this, and they're going to become part of your like more inner circle kind of thing. So it's 2 rounds of letters, right? And after you've sent 2 rounds of letters out, because you're going to have some people who won't reply to the first one but will to the second. But after 2 rounds of letters, now you know who your people are. But then you got to go through your database one more time, and you'll see names, you're like, I can't believe they didn't fill this out. And then you have to call them. And you have to ask the questions in my weird world. And if you're not willing to pick up the phone and call them, you have to delete them. Because if they're really your guys, you should have no problem calling them. They should already know who you are, right? It's not like, hey, this is Wayne. Silence on the phone, right? Client survey should be, do you guys do this? Client survey should be a part of every contract you ever write. Every listing agreement you ever take, there should be a personal client survey that is just part of the paperwork you ask people to fill out. Now, I know in a DocuSign world, it's like, well, we do everything electronically. We'll load it in there as one of the forms and have them fill it out. Then you don't have to worry about this anymore. Because my contention is once you do a transaction with someone, they should never leave your network. You did a great job. You're a nice person. You know what you're doing. Why would I ever deal with anybody but you? Only because I don't think of you. And that number stays consistent in the NAR profile of buyers and sellers. How many people would use their realtor again? It's up there like 75%. How many people actually do? It's down there about 40%. And it's just, like I say, it's just small business. Take a lesson, you've heard me say this before. Take a lesson from hotels. Take a lesson from airlines. Take a lesson from rail car. I've been on the road 4 weeks in a row. So I was in Michigan 2 days ago, yesterday. And I was with Mike Metzner. I don't know if you know Metzner. He owns Michigan, the regional owner of Michigan. Great guy. God, what a great guy. And so we went to Grand Rapids and he wanted to play golf. I had to play golf yesterday. He's like, I want to play golf with you. All right, I'll bring my clubs. So we went to Grand Rapids and I'm like, where are we staying? He goes, well, Marriott. Well, why would you stay anywhere but Marriott? I'm like, well, I'm a Hilton guy. And he goes, oh, I'm a Marriott guy. And he goes, I got a buddy, he's a big Michigan State football guy. And he goes, my best friend, we go to Michigan State games and we're always arguing over we're going to stay at Marriott's or we're going to stay at Hilton's, right? Well, I stay at Hilton's because I have status with Hilton's. He stays at Marriott because he has status with Marriott. I must admit that after staying at the JW Marriott in downtown Grand Rapids, I'm rethinking my bonus pool. Because it was a nice hotel. I don't know what it cost him, but he goes up to the stand and they're like, oh, Mr. Metzner, thank you for coming back. Now, as you know, with your golden titanium program or whatever the heck it was, right? like the highest level of whatever. It's like you have free run of the hotel, basically. And I asked him, I said, how many points you got with Marriott? And he goes, like 6 million. He goes, I've never used them all. I've never used them. He said, I'm waiting until I sell the Regent at some point and retire. And he goes, then we're just going to travel. Right? So the more he stays, and it was like, well, no, we're staying at Marriott's, Wayne. I'm like, okay, right? So I fly United Airlines. Most people hate United Airlines. I love United Airlines. Get upgraded all the time, right? I rent my cars from National. Y'all rent your cars from National? You should check it out. They have the Emerald Isle. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but I used to rent from Budget. And then I got turned on to National. Well, you walk by, you don't have to stop at the counter, none of that. You just walk, right when your plane lands, you get an email, just go straight to the Emerald Isle. Just pick out whichever car you'd like. And then after you do that for a while, then you get Executive. Well, they're cooler cars. Executive Elite. Well, you ought to see those cars. They're cool. It's like Range Rovers and all this stuff, and you pay the sedan rate with unlimited mileage. I know it's stupid, right? But if you travel, it's like, why would I not do this? Why are you not doing this for your clients? Because now I guarantee you, the next time you all think about renting a car, you might take a look at National, just because I sat here and made this impassioned 3-minute speech about them.
They need to pay you for that.
I know.
You're probably right.
I know. They do, but they won't. But that's okay. I love them. Okay. And then you go back and you fortify that relationship with them. You get back in front of them. You have them connect real estate to you, real estate to you, real estate to you. Because I will tell you factually, just because you see somebody at church every Sunday does not mean that they connect you and real estate. Once you've narrowed your database down, double down on the information you send them. How many of you subscribe to Inman News? Come on, guys. This turning pro means you got to have information the public doesn't have. Start subscribing perhaps to Inman News, Realty Times, Harvard Business Review, Wall Street Journal, National Association of Realtors. Go on realtor.org every once in a while, see if there's an article out there. Probably won't be, but kind of feel the obligation to put that in there. And sign up for Keeping Current Matters. Sign up for Keeping Current Matters, and you will no longer have to worry about real-time data for your people that they have no idea is out there. On every front, whether it's mortgage, whether it's sales, whether it's trends, and I'm not getting paid to promote Harney's company. I just think it's just a great thing. Those of you that subscribe to it know what I'm talking about. You're never at a loss for something to send your clients. And I just got an email yesterday, they're starting an Instagram thing now, to where you can post on Instagram. Once a month, they need to hear something from you, even if it's just a stock thing, right? Birthday cards. Send them something cool for their birthday. Just every time you think of something. Oh, another thing is, and this has become like my life rule. Whenever somebody pops into my head, I try to call them just to say what's up. I think there's a reason why they popped into my head. Right? Try to figure out things about them. So like I was with Mike Metzner, he owns Michigan, like I was telling you. So we go play golf yesterday. And he is a huge Michigan State fan. Like you couldn't get more green on yesterday. He had the Titleist hat with the Michigan State logo. He had the Michigan State shirt on. He's got a Michigan State bag. He's got Michigan State head covers. He had a Michigan State putter grip. And then I looked at his shoes. And he had on these god-awful old brown and white FootJoy saddle shoes. Now, on his car, his license plate is Dazzler. So I asked him, I'm like, what's up with this? He goes, oh man, it's an old high school nickname, and it's stuck. So I sent him a text last night. I go, what size shoes you wear? He's like, squares. I'm like, what? He goes, my feet are really wide and really short. I go, that doesn't help me. What size shoes do you wear? Because there's a thing called My Joys, where FootJoy will custom make shoes. So I've already ordered them for him, right? White shoes, green saddle, Michigan State colors. And then they have this thing where you can monogram them, and on both shoes I put Dazzler, right? So I'll have them by the time we go to BOC. I'm not going to tell him what I'm doing. All he knows is he gave me his shoe size, but I'm going to give them to him at BOC. Why? Because I want him to hire me to come back to Michigan, right? We all play the same game, right? Okay. Thinking of you cards, right? Just thinking of you. Note cards. Hope you're doing well. Just thinking of you. Drove by your house today. Just thinking of you. Have a great day. Sign your name. Sharpie marker, greatest friend. You can fill a postcard up with a Sharpie marker in like 5 words. If you just spent 15, my rule of 2 and power of 15, if you just spend 15 minutes a day writing thinking of you cards to your people, your business will increase. There is no doubt about it. I learned the Sharpie marker trick from Howard Britton years ago. Those of you who remember Howard, I sat next to him on an airplane, and about 3 days later, I got a handwritten note from Howard, and I was on cloud 9 as a real estate agent. And all it said was, great to see you, Howard, with a Sharpie marker. Really big, right? That's all you have to do. It's just that touch point, right? John Naisbitt said, and he wrote Megatrends, the more technology around us, the more the need for human touch. Our business is getting assailed by technology, isn't it? The line in the sand for us is human touch. Seriously. That's the line in the sand. You know, I saw where Tom Ferry was saying if you got to work on your Google reviews. Yeah, just, okay. But spend 15 minutes a day and write notes to people that goes, drove by your house and it looks awesome, thinking of you. I think that'll work too. Telephone calls. Now this is a tough one, right? Because you're like, I don't want to call those people. At the end of the day, I don't really care how they're doing, right? Well, no, I've had people, I was kind of that way. So just double up on the notes. That's all I'll tell you. It doesn't really matter how you contact people, just so that you contact them in different formats and you do it consistently, right? Just don't always constantly put them on a drip email campaign and think that's going to keep them near you, because it ain't. It's not going to work. But it was sexy about 15 years ago. You really want to knock it out of the park, start a closed Facebook group of your past clients and referral sources. Encourage them to post discounts and offers for their services to your other clients, or make some really cool offerings to them within your closed Facebook page. Every time you send a referral, send them a thank you note with a restaurant certificate. Send somebody to Baxter's every time they send you a referral. You're probably already doing this. I hope you're doing it. If you're not, you should start. Keep a spreadsheet of all the referrals you receive by the referring person, and then have a client party. How many people you have a client party? Yeah, that's the most hands I've ever seen go up. I was in Indiana last week. Did 2 different sessions in Indiana. And when I asked the question about working by referral and, how many times do I hear from you? 2 groups of RE/MAX agents. Not one hand went up at 24 times. Not one hand went up at 18 times. Not one hand went up at 12 times. A few hands went up at 6 times. I'm like, y'all need to up your game. You need to turn pro. Because the internet guys and all the money they have, they're banking on the fact that you won't turn pro. They're trying to make this just an online clicky kind of thing. Have a client party. Schedule a party of 2 to 3 hours. Every invitation has a slip of paper in it for each referral they've sent you during the year. Everybody gets at least 1 slip. Collect all the slips, have drawings for prizes throughout the night. A guy named Tom Amos in Texas, this is all he's ever done to drive his business. He works out of an office over his garage. Single guy, no assistant, $30 million a year. Massive bottom line. This is literally all he's ever done as a client party. So this is his model. Then I got to show you this. Just anything to make her people feel special. There's somebody eating a deal. And then she did a Dunkin' Donuts thing where if you could just go to Dunkin' Donuts and get a donut and a cup of coffee on her, and all she asked is that they please posted Best Cypress, Texas Realtor. Her business has gone up like 300% in the last 18 months. It's all just people know who she is and they like her and she does a great job and she cares about her people and it's nothing different than everybody in this room, but it's fortifying it with some marketing dollars in the right way. And I think that until that piece is hitting on all cylinders, what I watch most realtors do is they don't have this piece hitting on all cylinders, and then they start spending money out here chasing all this other stuff. And before you know it, your credit card bill is filled with $19.99s a month of various lead sources, when really if we just took it and we invested the money back over here. So I just wanted to show you guys that. Now let me see if I'm smart enough to get back to my PowerPoint. Look at me. That was impressive. Okay. Bottom line is just be consistent with your people. I've talked about this for literally 20 years. And it's still shocking to me the number of, or the lack of hands that go up on that north of 24 times a year thing. I just got an email the other day from Hilton. I always open up Hilton emails, always. Because it's like this one. Click here, quadruple points till September the 15th. Okay, you're in. Thereby making sure that I probably won't switch to Marriott, right? Your people love to have communications with you. So many times people are like, well, I don't want to be bothering people. If you're bringing value, you're not bothering me. If I know you and like you, you're not bothering me by keeping me in flow with the real estate market, by giving me impactful information. Grand prize at the party, 30 minutes before, draw out 5 names and have them come up on stage. Last person standing wins. In other words, spend some money on your client party, folks. Spend $750 for a venue, $20 a head times 150 people is $3,000. Get a band. You can get somebody to play music for, trust me, I got a son that's a musician. You can get somebody to play music for $500. $2,000 worth of prizes, $2,500 for a grand prize. I mean, you can get like 3 days, 2 nights in Vegas for $2,500 with airfare. Spend $8,750 on your past clients. A lot of money, I get it. But it's only $729 a month. And I know so many people that are spending $729, $750, $1,000 trying to buy internet leads. And I'm just saying it's good money chasing good business. To me, this is a better way to spend our money chasing business. And then once this is operating, again, on all cylinders, then if you need to shore it up, then you start playing around in the other arenas. 3 C's of generating leads, 3 C's of action, if you will. We've got to be really clear on what you're trying to accomplish. That could just be the goal, right? What's your goal? You've got to have confidence. And you got to be consistent. So for whatever you want to do in life, right? Jim Collins called it your big honking audacious goal. You had to have an economic model, you had to have a passion for what you were doing, and you had to believe you could be the best in the world at it. You got to get really clear on what you're trying to do, knowing that consistency is what will get you there, right? If I just consistently did a few things every day, and you'll discover it's no more than an hour and a half a day, maybe. But if you just consistently did it and you got into the habit of playing the long game, it starts to happen. You don't know when it's going to, I mean, honest to goodness, you don't know when it's going to happen. This coach's corner thing that I'm doing with Remax, which is a big deal for me in my career, I had no idea that was coming. No idea. I got a phone call. Pam Harris called me and she goes, how's your business? I said, right now, Pam, it's almost too good. She goes, that is not what I want to hear. I go, what do you got? She goes, I got 5 cities. I got Denver, Vegas, Phoenix. You fly in, you speak for an hour, you fly out. You fly in, you speak for an hour, you fly out. Then I give you 4 days off, then you go to Baltimore and someplace else to be determined. Are you too busy to do this? I'm like, nope. I'm in. She goes, well, it's you and Tom Ferry and Jerry James. I go, no, I'm in. Figure it out. Right? Had no idea that was coming. But I'm a broken record. I believe what I believe. You ain't pulling me off of it. I'm not chasing, I'm not going to be this charlatan that this is the hot thing that we need to talk about, because what I'm seeing is every time I get to sit down, like literally, and talk to people, it's not about all that. It's cool, it's sexy, it sells books and tapes and coaching programs and all that. I will not say this during the Coach's Corner. But it's more foundational stuff that we have to get in, and then go fire up the bombers and let's go. I'm still shocked at how many people are hesitant in a listing presentation and with their valuation processes, or the ability to get a buyer agency signed, and that dialogue. I'm such a dialogue wonk that I just think we're trying to do all this other stuff, and it's just stressful. And I just don't think it has to be that way. So ultimately, be the proper action for you. The only way you can build your confidence is to practice. I am sorry. It is the only way to build confidence. I'm a golfer. You practice on the driving range. You don't try to practice a whole lot mid-round. You don't want to step up on the first tee and be nervous. Well, everybody's a little nervous on the first tee. Because you did the work. Now all I'm doing is saying you do the work, but nobody's going to make you do the work. You got to decide to do the work. Because the real estate business is not consistent, you and your activities have to be. You have to be, if you want to crush this thing, really get after it. And you guys are so lucky because you have leaders in your company that get after it every day. They crush it. You're lucky. You're the number one. What are you guys? The number one small market for like 87 years in a row.
Yes,
5 hours.
in the world.
In the world. For how many years in a row?
5 out of 6.
5 out of 6. What happened on that off year? What happened on the off year?
I don't know.
Somebody got after it's what happened. Right? Somebody got after it, and then you were like, uh-oh, we got to get after it again because we want to get that again. That's a mentality, right? I mean, y'all understand that. It's a mentality. It comes from leadership, and it flows down through people. In order to effectively prospect and be able to confidently generate leads, you have to master presentations. Now, there's not that many presentations in this gig you got to master. You got to master a buyer presentation and a listing presentation. You got to understand how to value property. I don't care how you come up with the value of a piece of property. You just got to, by the time you're done with it, I just got to go, well, that makes perfect sense. So there's not like this really wide skill set that we have to master. Your success in prospecting greatly depends on your dialogue, your confidence, and your passion. Not greatly, it 100% depends on your dialogue, your confidence, and your passion. When you have internalized dialogue, everything falls into place. And you have internalized dialogue in every other aspect of your life. You have internalized dialogue on how you answer the telephone. You have internalized dialogue when you walk into a store. You have internalized dialogue when you walk into a restaurant. Everything in life is so stinking scripted, it's just ridiculous. And yet, when I tell people, hey, you need that in your business, like, oh, I don't like scripts. Well, you already have them if you'll just record yourself. Go record yourself for the next 2 weeks making presentations and talking to people on the phone. You'll discover you say the same things every time. The question is it getting you where you want it to be? Internalized dialogue leads to confidence. Confidence leads to passion, passion to results, results to habits, and habits to mastery. The only difference in anybody in this room or anybody in this market is mastery of habits. The only difference between someone making $2 million a year in revenue and someone doing $2 million in sales is a different set of habits. You got the same number of hours in a day, same number of days in a week. You just do different stuff with your time, right? Always prospect for listings. You've seen this from me before, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. Always prospect for listings. If you're going to spend your time prospecting, obviously prospect for listings. Now, this is a tough old deal right now, isn't it? So we got to be looking at leverage. We got to figure out how are we going to leverage every little piece of business that we have and try to turn it into more business. Because right now, this thing is a tinderbox of stress. I mean, it just is. Are there any expireds at all in your market?
Very.
Have there been any expireds over the last 3 years? Are there houses that expired 3 years ago because their pricing was not wrong, was not correct, that have not put their houses on the market, back on the market? But if they did put their house back on the market at the number they were asking 3 years ago, it'd be a bargain. Are you guys already contacting those people? Okay. Should be. Everybody should be. I'll just go through this quickly. Most of you know I changed my life calling expireds. When I decided I was going to get after it, that was one of my key points. It's not a vibrant piece of business right now. It'll come back. This thing's cyclical. I remember Dennis Curtin when I was regional director in like 2009, he walked in to my office and he's like, if you were an agent right now, what would you be doing? I said, I'd be listing every piece of property I could find because it'll turn. And when it turns, it'll turn really, really fast. Something will happen and sellers will get back in control. He goes, I'd be doing the same thing. And this was a time when all the agents were like, I don't want any more listings. They don't sell. Well, I didn't mind a listing not selling because I had the dialogue down of how to coach a seller, talk to a seller regularly when their house wasn't selling. I was used to that. And when it turned in like 2012, 13, it did turn really fast. And so many people, if you've been doing this less than 8 years, this is not normal, right? I mean, you know what's going on now is not normal. I mean, this thing's more ramped up than it was even at the end of the year. And the strategies that we had a year ago, they just laugh at you now. Well, I've put it in an escalation clause. Oh, really? Well, that's nice. That's special. My buyer's pre-approved. Oh, really? Perfect. We don't care, right? You can find 15 minutes in every day. Try to run your life 15 minutes a day. Look what happens when you put it into productive prospecting. In 15 minutes a day, I will guarantee you can dial a phone 10 times. If we had expireds, if there were any, I would start calling them right now. I could just pick up the phone, we could call them. Regardless of time you choose, you'll reach 20% of the prospects. It's Pareto's Law, the 80-20 principle. If you did that every day, it'd be 10 contacts a week, 50 weeks a year. 25% of them will let you come out and talk to them. You list 80% of them, that's 100 listings. 80% sell, that's 80 deals, 200,000, 16 million, it's 480 grand. I know. Numbers lie and liars use numbers, or whatever that old saying is. But what if only 12.5% of the people let you come out and talk to them? But you were really good when you talked to them, and you really did understand pricing. You'd make $240,000. But that's just stupid. I mean, that couldn't be possible. So let's slice it up again. Now only 40% of the people list with you, but you make an extra 120 grand, but well, that couldn't be right. So slice it up again. and only 12.5% of the people let you talk to them, 40% list, and only 40% sell, and you make an additional $60,000. And this does make an assumption that none of these people go do another transaction with you. And it makes an assumption that none of these listings generate any kind of leads for you from something else. And very few people are willing to do this. And the only well, you might be willing to. Intellectually, you're like, well, that makes sense. But we don't have the confidence to do it, right? We don't have the confidence of the dialogue. We don't know what they're going to say. We're so afraid to say the wrong thing, we don't say anything. We don't make the call. We have black cord fever, whatever you want to call it, right? You can fix it if you choose to. Just understand that expireds don't like realtors. They were promised a whole bunch of things that did not happen, and they are not happy, and you need to be the first person they talk to. I developed this dialogue, God knows how many years ago, but it still works. Hi, it's Wayne Fredrick with RE/MAX. I noticed your home showup's expired, and I was just wondering, are you going to be relisting with the same agent or possibly interviewing any new agents? That's the only part of these gigs you got to nail. You just got to nail the opening line. You can't stammer, stutter, or anything else. Hi, this is Wayne Fredrick, RE/MAX Lake of the Ozarks. I noticed your home showup's expired this morning, and I was just wondering, are you going to be relisting with the same agent or possibly interviewing any new agents? There are, 5 possible answers. Number 1, we're not going to relist. Well, if you don't mind me asking, what changed? What happened? Number 2, we've already relisted. Great, same agent or new agent, have a nice day, because I'm not going to go around somebody, right? Number 3, we're going to interview people. Boom, that's all I need to know. What do I need to do to be one of the people? Number 1 answer is, I don't know. I didn't interview people last time. I just called my buddy, the onesie-twosie guy who wasn't very good at this. We're going to try for sale by owner. Great, what led you to that decision? Scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the experience you just had? Or, we're not going to relist for a while. Great, when you do relist, will you be interviewing people? No, why not? Yes. What do I need to do to be one of those people? I don't know. That's all the conversation I needed to have, which would take me to this. By the way, while I have you, the only reason why your house didn't sell. I noticed you were priced at X. How'd you come up with the price? Number 1 answer to that one is the agent told me it was worth that much. Did you get a lot of showings? It's kind of a throwaway question. Maybe not, whatever. What was the feedback from the showings? I have no idea. I never heard from my agent. It's the number 1 thing that sellers have a problem with listing agents. They never hear back from them. Because if you're going to do list property at a high level, you have to grasp the skill set of delivering distasteful information to people on a regular basis. You got to learn how to do it. Did any of the people who came through your property buy another one? I don't know. Did any houses like yours sell while you're on the market? I don't know. Well, the answers to those have been helpful. That's all I ever wanted to know, a lot of people would say. They never got any feedback. Your goal is to move from the phone to the house as fast as you can. The dialogue is just, can I just bring a packet? Could I just email you a packet? Could I just send you some information about me so that when you get ready to make that decision, maybe, just maybe, I could have the interview? Could we just do that? Would that be okay? You'll get 100% success rate if you do this. Because there's no risk to them. And you're banking on the fact that your materials are good enough that when they make their decision, that maybe you'll just be in the game. Maybe you'll get the at-bat, right? It's a successful mission when you get a packet. An alternative? Do you have a really cool packet? Do you have a really cool pre-listing packet that tells about you and how cool you are? Just start mailing it out to people. Just get a big yellow frickin' sticky note and just put, I'm sorry your house didn't sell, maybe I can help. And write your name, not Wayne, but just put your name on there. This works. Do the math on it. It works. I had a client that said, I really want to go after expireds. I'm like, well, knowing your behavior, you're never going to call them. I said, but you have a really cool packet. Let's just start mailing them out and see what happens. So she wrote like this cover letter, and I'm like, no, just get a yellow sticky note and just write with a Sharpie marker. I'm sorry your house didn't sell. Maybe I can help. Lisa. She listed 6 houses in 3 months. And then weirdly, guess what happened? She stopped doing it. And I don't, for the life of me, understand why she stopped doing it. I'm like, how you doing with the package? Oh, I need to start that up again. I don't get it. That should be a foundational thing. 15 minutes a day. I'm going to send out a couple of packets today. I'm going to send out, 10 packets a week, whatever. Right? It's going to cost you about $4 delivered. And using the previous model of 500 houses, you're going to spend $2,000 a year doing this. I got to believe that if you got 500 of these in people's hands, if the packet's cool, somebody's going to call you, aren't they? FSBOs, I don't know, there's lots of FSBOs now, right? Everybody's trying to sell their house themselves. This is easy. Oh, speaking of that, I saw yesterday in the GSBOR private Facebook group of agents, this agent posts, WTF, what is going on with all of these people now offering lower commissions to buyer's agents? Buyer's agents are working harder than they ever have. We can't be offering lower commissions to buyer's agents, and on and on and on. And all these knucklehead agents are like, oh, I agree, this is ridiculous. And finally, Jim Stewart, I don't know if you know Stewart or not. He was one of the partners in House of Brokers. He posted on there and he goes, CJ, love ya. This is really dangerous dialogue that you've opened up here. This is about all the lawsuits on realtors about trying to all get together and collude on commissions. Her response was, oh, sorry, I didn't think of that. Should I delete it? He's like, yeah, you should probably delete this now. You should probably get it out. You can't do that, right? But there's more pressure on commission. It is true, I know, it's true. Just don't put it in writing. Craig Lowther taught me that. Never put in writing what you can say to someone. Because there's no record of it. But understand, in the state of Missouri, something else I learned 2 years ago, you always need to, every conversation you have with somebody, you need to keep this in the back of your mind. In the state of Missouri, do you know the rule on recording phone calls? Do you know the law?
Only one party.
One party consent. So if you are party to a phone call, the other person can record the phone call and not tell you they're recording it. Perfectly legal in the state of Missouri. That led to a $35,000 discrimination lawsuit settlement. It was a total setup. They had done it multiple times before, but they recorded the phone call and the agent was out of their lane and said one thing that there was like no turning back. Insurance company settled it for $35,000. So just remember, and I know it's a stressful time and all that, but it's just a weird little factoid. FSBOs, you ought to be doing FSBOs because there are FSBOs. Week 1, open the door. Week 2, a FSBO package. Week 3, a CMA. Here's the process. Simply put a name with a face, right? Just every time you see a FSBO, just get comfortable with the dialogue. Go up to the door. Hey, it's Wayne Fredrick with RE/MAX. Listen, I just noticed your sign. I was on my way to an appointment, thought I'd stop by. Look, here's a business card. I totally respect what you're doing, but if you have any questions, please call me, turn around and walk away. The key to it is you have to turn around and walk away, because every other agent's like, I think I might have a buyer. Can I come in and look at your house? All this stuff. I cannot overstate the importance of you differentiating yourself at very first contact with people in today's world. You got to show that you're different. So literally, just hand them a business card and go, nah, see ya, because you know you're going to come back next week. They don't expect that, right? So the next week, you're going to come by and perhaps give them a FSBO book if you have one. If not, you should create one if you want to play this game. Don't give them a listing, don't give them a pre-listing packet. Now you're just like all the rest of the realtors. Give them a book that shows them exactly how to do this. If they followed the book, they'd probably sell their house. They'll never read it. Because you know you're coming back in week 3. Hey, I was running CMAs the other day just for a client I'm getting on a listing I'm getting ready to have. Thought I'd run one for you. Because in week 4, you go back and say, hey, look, you're probably getting closer to selling this thing now. So here's all the vendors that we use. Here's the title company, the insurance company. By the way, if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. After you see them face to face, the first time, you never have to see them face to face again. You can slip things under the mat. You can call them and tell them, I just left it on your front porch for you, whatever. You do need to see them face to face the very first time. Does this work? 100% this works. Chuck Rumfeld, I won't tell you the long details of the story. 50 years old, got in the real estate business, told me he had 10 years to work and he knew how much money he wanted to make. He made $125,000 his first 12 months. It was all FSBOs. And this is exactly what he did. He discovered that Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. was the best time to go find new for sale by owner people. And he would just go knock on their door, hand them a business card. Hey, I'm Chuck Rumfeld with RE/MAX. Totally respect what you're trying to do. Just on my way to another appointment. If you got any questions, let me know. Have a nice day. See ya. He retired after 10 years, by the way. He came to my office and said, after 4 years, and said, I'm done. I've got the money. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, but I got to work 6 more years because my wife's got to work. I just wanted you to know this worked. It was really cool. All FSBOs. Just follow up after that. Hey, it's Wayne with RE/MAX. Just touching base. How you doing? If you have a really good incoming call script, that's something else you can send them. Because for sale by owners, they get phone calls, and then they don't know how to handle the phone call. So it's like, well, here, when I get a phone call, here's what I say to them. Maybe you ought to use this. Maybe you ought to try to help them do it. If you understand people's behavior styles, most people can't sell their house themselves anyway. High D people, the very direct people, they can sell their house themselves. But a lot of people are trying it that are really just not mentally equipped for the transaction. Why do you do this? And Chuck had this happen to him. Honestly, I'm hoping you found the materials you gave me to be of value. That's a win for you. If you happen to run across someone who wants to sell their house but doesn't want to go FSBO, maybe you'll remember me. He got like 3 referrals from FSBOs he never got to work with. They're like, oh, you need to call this guy. He's different than the rest of those yahoos. Alternative approach to FSBOs. Crap, just mail them everything. Just action may not always bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action. Just get off dead center, man. Just go do a little bit of something every day. It doesn't even matter what it is. Just go talk to somebody. Your life will be the same tomorrow as it is today, other than the places you go, the people you meet, and the books you read. Just go talk to people. You'll have a tendency to do that when you're confident, right? When you have the skill set, you have the dialogue down. It's like, oh, I'll talk to anybody. It's like, you want me to make a presentation? You got a PowerPoint? I'll work my way through it. I got my own stories. I'll tell the same quotes every time. Open houses. They work. If you can find one long enough to hold it open, right? Make sure it's priced right. Here's the criteria. I'm not going to bore you with the details of it. But make sure your open house counter looks something like this. This is the same agent I told you that had the Raving Fans Club. So regardless of where this conversation goes, she has a piece of material that she can give you. If she determines that you have a house to sell, well, she has a pre-listing packet. She would love to just talk to you about that. Right? Or if you're going to do for sale by owner, she gives you a FSBO packet or whatever it is. It's just how much material are you really bringing with you in the field? How prepared are you to crush these possible appointments? 4-step qualification method. Every time you talk to someone, every time you talk to whoever it is, get 4 things worked into the conversation. Number 1, do you have a desire to do something? Number 2, do you have the ability to? That runs down 2 rails, right? Financial and baggage. The financial piece is they either are already approved for a loan or they have cash. The baggage piece is they have something that has to happen before they can actually do it. Maybe they have a lease that has to be completed. Maybe they have a house they have to sell. The third thing is, would you like some help with this process? And the fourth thing, is there any way that I can interview to be one of the people? Could I just have an interview? Would you just talk to me? Would you just let me come out and share with you the way I go about this? Every day, every time you talk to anyone from any source, those are the big 4 for me. If you get 4 yeses, now you got a lead. If you don't get 4 yeses, you don't have a lead. You just have a person that you talk to. So every day the goal should be to try to have great conversations with people, right? Not knowing where it's going to end up. I just want to go have great conversations with people every day, all day. Deliver the appropriate materials for the situation, either in person, by mail, or email. How many of you are sending, after you meet somebody in an open house, or after you have a phone conversation with them, how many of you turn right around and send them a little video? I just wanted you to be able to put a name with a face. So enjoyed talking with you on the phone. Anybody doing that? Start. You were a fan of me when the morning started.
I'm a fan still. I'm just not a fan of me in a video.
Nobody is. Nobody is.
You guys saw me yesterday.
Nobody is. Nobody is. So here's how this could work, right? For phone calls, shoot one, just keep shooting until you get one you like, and use it every time. They don't know what you're wearing. It was a phone call. Send the same video out every time. But it will differentiate you from the other agents that I talk to. They will reply to the text message. This is working with people. You've got to in today's world, you've got to differentiate yourself at first contact. The old model that we have always used as realtors is we try to differentiate ourselves over time. We try to get some basic information from you. These were sign-in sheets in an open house. And then I'd write you a note, and then I'd start trying to drip information on you, and I would hope that would come out the other end as a lead. It doesn't work in today's world. We have shifted as a society. If you don't knock my socks off the first time I see you and show me that you're different, I will move on. And it's all because of cell phones, in my opinion. It's all because we scroll. We scroll through Facebook, we scroll through the stories on Facebook now. How many of you never even go to like the Facebook thing, you just look at the stories? Anybody? We scroll through Instagram, TikTok, and if you don't catch my attention from the get-go, I will move on because there's plenty of content. Well, there's plenty of other realtors for me to talk to. If you physically handed the materials to your client, or you're emailing materials to the client, text the video within 15 minutes. And then send them the appropriate materials or additional materials beyond which perhaps you handed them. Geographic farming. Anybody doing geographic farming? Right now, a bunch of people are jumping in trying to do geographic farming, but moving on as this thing, some of these strategies you may not be able to implement till the end of the year, maybe the beginning of next, whatever. Research neighborhoods that fit the following criteria. 5% of the rooftops are already selling anyway. I mean, just because you decide to mail to a neighborhood is not going to make people go, oh, well, Jeff Krantz is mailing to us now. I think I'll sell my house. No, you got to know that there's already transactions going on. There's no dominant agent on the listing side. That's one of the keys to this because they're probably already farming it if they are. Assume a 20% capture rate over time, and that time would be defined as 12 months. That you'll be able to get an appointment with 20% of the 5% who are already doing it if you stay consistent. And budget for 12 months at $1 a mailing in their hand. So 500 rooftops at $1 is $500 a month. It's a $6,000 budget to launch this. For example, 25 sales, no dominant agent, and 500 rooftops. I could get 5 sales over time, $28,000 in income, $6,000 investment, a 367% return on my investment. That's better than EXP stock. For those people that were watching that. You notice they've stopped posting about that now. Have you noticed that? They're not showing you the EXP stock price now. Wonder why. You got to have the cash flow to consistently mail to the same group for 12 months or don't even start it. Do not dabble. Stop. We're dabblers. We are the industry of dabblers. We dabble here and we dabble there. We got to change our mindset. Guys, so much of this is just mindset. It's like, I'm going to get after it. I'm going to win. I'm going to figure it out. Purchased business. I don't know how many of you are purchasing business. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but if you're going to purchase business, get after it. It does work. There's no doubt it works. I love Zillow, hate Zillow, whatever. I got some clients making a lot of money off Zillow right now. The one key to handling purchase business is having great dialogue. Don't go spend your money trying to purchase leads until you got the dialogue down. You can read this later. Bottom line is, don't babble the information to people. Learn the basic. Here's the biggest thing you have to learn to be able to effectively handle this. When they ask you a question, answer it. But you have to train yourself to follow up with a question of your own every time. That's the key to this. I mentioned Brian Woodward before. I've been working with Woodward's people on this, okay? They do a lot of work with Zillow, and we've been able to double their conversion rates so far this year on Zillow calls. And it's only because of the dialogue people are using. There's a guy down there named Donnie Woodard, and he literally got in the real estate business because of COVID. He was a teacher. I'm like, Donnie, why'd you decide to get into real estate? And he goes, COVID. He goes, he's a PE teacher. I decided I was going to get in real estate. I went and got my test. I knew Brian. I called Brian. He said, yeah, come on in. He is not a silver-tongued devil by any stretch of the imagination. He is crushing Zillow leads because he got the dialogue down. I'm like, what's the best part about being a realtor, Donnie? He goes, when the bell rang, he said, there's no bell. He goes, when I was a school teacher, when the bell rang, I had to go into the gym and hang out with some kids that quite honestly, Wayne, I don't want to be around anymore. He goes, I don't have to be around anybody I don't want to. And he goes, you know what the coolest part is though? I said, what's that, Donnie? He said, yesterday, I went home in the middle of the afternoon and I put together my daughter's play set in the backyard. He said, I couldn't have done that when I was a teacher. He goes, this is the greatest thing I've ever stumbled into. He's killing it. But he's got the dialogue down. When a buyer asks a question, answer it. But follow up with a question of your own. This is where these things all go south. And there's these long, awkward, weird silences on these calls, and I listen to a ton of them. I got access to 15 different Zillow accounts. I could take you around the country, and you would hear that the conversations or lack thereof are exactly the same regardless of market. It's very frustrating for the consumer. This is why the average consumer interacts with 26 different realtors on 72 different pieces of property in an online setting. Now, on the one hand, you could say they're disloyal, and on the other hand, you could say, no, the realtors just suck. I now know that it's because the realtors are not having great conversations with people, so the consumer just moves on. If you're not using listing and buyer questionnaires, please start. That's really the main thing that we did in Brian's office is they all are toting these around. They've laminated them, they all have dry erase markers. It's just crib sheet questions so you can keep the conversation moving. That's all in the world it is. But that's all it takes to differentiate you in today's world. Have a better conversation with me than what I expected. Yes, sir.
Wayne, we've been talking about this a little bit, and I get so passionate about it because you were at our office in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
He pretended, you guys have heard this before, but I'm going to say it again, he pretended that he was a lead. He called our competitors, and he talked to them, and he led them to the fact that you were professional and you were qualified and you were moving to the area. Gave them a timeline and everything. And nobody converted the call. Nobody got, I don't know how many calls you made, 2 or 3?
Yeah. We can do it today if you want to.
So, my take.
I'm serious.
My take on that is when we get frazzled and we get busy and we get pushed, we forget our at bats. We forget that we have this long to make a difference. And so it's like basic, but it could never be more important. I just get so.
It's more important now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Because this thing is so ramped up and so overheated. I mean, it's crazy. Like I say, it's opposite day. It's like that Freaky Friday movie or whatever it was, right? But you need to be, seriously, you need to be carrying these around with you all the time. They need to be in your cars. Laminate them, get a dry erase marker. Until you get the questions down and where it's internalized, where you just couldn't stop it from coming out, right? And also, let me tell you just a couple of other things that I've learned from listening to a lot of these calls. There's a time to ask people if they're working with another agent. It is not your opening question. You want to throw cold water on a conversation and go, well, are you working with anybody? And you can just,
Disagree.
what's that? What?
Yeah, go tell Cricket Skaggs, please.
Who?
It's
A realtor in our area.
a realtor in our area that is very vocal about certain things.
Okay. There's a time to ask that question. It's not your opening question. And the other question that everybody keeps on asking is, well, are you pre-approved? Get that out of your dialogue. By the way, when you purchase, will you be paying cash or getting a loan? It's the same question, it's just said differently. This thing now spins on little bitty stupid things, well, not stupid, little bitty things like that. Again, do you have a desire to do something? Because not every call you get, they don't all have a desire. I'm sure you guys get calls like, hey, I'm calling about this house, I'm on the water right now, and I see this house.
And I want to know if the boat's for sale.
Right. Well, right.
Right?
Yes, it is.
Do you have the ability?
Right.
Would you like some assistance? Because we acknowledge, not everybody wants help, do they? Could I interview? All I ever ask for is an interview. That's it. That's all I ever want. Just give me a shot. How many other people are you going to talk to? That's awesome. That's the way people should do this. I wish more people would do that. When can I come and talk to you? Because I'm going to win. I mean, you don't tell them that, but in your mind you do, right? I learned this calling expireds. Expired people, they interviewed 2 or 3 people. All I needed was an at-bat. I'd probably get you. I get my percentage of them. Let's put it that way. Deliver the appropriate materials for the situation. Send a thanks for the meeting video. And since the meeting was on the phone and you're mailing materials, have I shown you these video cards before? We did this last time I was here, right? How many people went out and bought video cards?
We looked into it.
What'd you find? They do come from China. They come from China. So if you have that thing, I get it. But if I was an agent, if I was in the field right now, I'd have at least 100 of these puppies at $20 a throw. And I'd order them, and I'd get them, and I'd set them on my desk, and I'd have to look at them every day. Because I used to play this trick with myself, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't? Kayla, remind me to send you a contact. Okay? So anyway, you've seen this before, but I'll show you my buddy Carl again. Oh, we're not going to hear the sound. Okay, never mind. We're not going to see Carl. This is what he uses for recruiting. It helps appointments hold. It will help appointments hold from you because it invokes what's referred to as the law of reciprocity. It's like a law. It's a law like up and down, happy, sad, left, right, in, out. The law of reciprocity is a law, and it simply says this: if you give me something, I feel this weird, not even conscious, I feel a subconscious need to give you something else. Right? So this is why having packets at an open house works. That if you give me a packet of information that tells about, the buying process, and then you ask for my name, without even knowing it, I feel the need to tell you what my name is because you've given me information. Okay? I added this in yesterday. You probably already know this, but in today's environment, I think you all ought to get buyer agency signed with people. How many of you will not work with a buyer without a buyer agency? We need to raise that bar. We need to raise that bar. This is a huge leverage point for you, I believe. Once a buyer hires you to represent them, considering the following strategies in addition to traditional MLS, you're probably doing most of these anyway right now just because of the heat of the market. But I would contend that when this market turns and does whatever it's going to do, if you get the skill set now, and this just became your policy moving forward and working with buyers, I think you'd have a lot more success. Number one, direct mail to specific neighborhoods defined by the buyer. See, we used to think it was an advantage when we had a buyer and they weren't real specific. Now we want them to be crazily specific on what they're looking for, because I'm proposing that you need to go spend your money to find me the house that I really want. Number two, drive the neighborhoods together and have the buyer define particular homes that interest them. Tell them that you'll contact them and see if they'll sell. How many people are doing that? Canvass other realtors on properties they have coming on the market. Have I talked to you about the Blue Ocean Strategy book? So there's a great book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. The book defines that every market is made up of two oceans, a red ocean and a blue ocean. The red ocean is the known market space. For us, that would be multi-list. And it's red with blood because everybody's in there fighting for the same deals in the same market, the same customers. And right now, that's really going on, isn't it? We're fighting now. The premise of the book is that if you would stop fighting in the red ocean and you would just back up and look around, there's a blue ocean over there and there isn't anybody in it. And all you have to do is go move into the blue ocean. Well, the blue ocean for us in this market right now is unlisted properties, right? You guys are like drug lords at this point. There's like seriously, it's like a black market of properties. And the Redfin guy, the guy out in, if you're familiar with Redfin as a company, he's all stirred up about it. Because his company is predicated on the fact that they will have the buyers and they will just cabbage onto your listings, right? And he doesn't like the fact that there's this black market going on. And people are saying, well, this is unfair. I had a guy in Indiana last week when I was going through a long presentation about this. And he goes, well, this isn't good for the seller. If I sell the house myself. I go, why? He goes, well, they're not going to maximize their money. And I said, you're making a big leap here. You're making a leap that every seller only cares about the money, and that's just not true. Some sellers want the ease of the transaction, right? So the idea behind this is that your buyers are a leverage point. And you can make a blue ocean for yourself by leveraging those buyers and get yourself out of the red ocean. And I would say moving forward, it should probably be a cornerstone business philosophy just forever. So I wrote a very specific letter and I handed it to Brian Woodward and he started running with it. What I think is going on is the reason this works is because it is very specific. It's not just, hey, the market's good, call me, right? I saw a guy on Facebook yesterday. He said, have you seen my new billboard? The bottom of it, it said free market analysis. I'm like, that ship sailed in like 1985, David. What we think's working is this bottom line, the last line. It's not a fishing expedition. I actually have a buyer who loves your neighborhood, your street, pointed at your house, and I'm working hard to help them find their dream home and location. If your buyer will allow you to, include a copy of their pre-approval letter if they don't have cash. Or include a copy of a bank statement with their name blacked out, whatever. In other words, show the people that like, hey, I ain't playing around here. I got a buyer, you want to sell? Make sure the approval letter, stop the game we used to play, right? You'd always get to call the lender. Now I need a pre-approval letter for 300 because that's what we're going to offer. We don't want to play our hand out, you know. Now you want to play your hand out, obviously, when you have a buyer. When you get a response, be prepared for the question, now do you really have a buyer? Or are you just trying to get listings? No, I really have a buyer. Okay, well, here's my address. Have your buyer go by. Nope, not how we're going to do this. I'm going to come and talk to you. The theory was that these people would not feel the need to pull the other agent into the transaction. Because the theory was, or what I knew, was that nobody had this really strong past client program, and very few people would think like, I need to bring Jeff in on this because he's my guy. And it's being borne out every day. They're sending out 400 pieces of mail a week. They're double ending so many of these deals. They're getting listing appointments out of this deal. Brian's like, I'll send them letters out. We'll see what happens. The key to it is it's a very specific deal. I don't know if y'all are doing this yet or not. You should start. What I would tell you though for the buyers is like, look, you're not going to have a lot of leverage in this market if you've learned that. If I keep you in the multi-list world, the red ocean, you're not going to have a lot of leverage. You're going to be in bidding wars. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to miss out. But I got a plan. If you'll commit to me and you'll sign a buyer agency with me, I'm going to go do this for you. I'm going to go try to find you the house that you say you want. I got another client in Indiana that I told him about it. He went and did it in a condo. The lady's like, I really want an end condo. He's like, all right, I'll go see if I can find you one. She's like, really? He's like, yeah. He sent the letter out. In the middle of it all, one of the end condos came up. She bought it. He got a listing out of it. So the gentleman called him and he goes, we've had this thing as an investment. We think the marketplace is really good right now. We'd like to sell it. Do you still have the buyer? And he said, I'm so sorry, she already bought something else, but I would love to try to help you. And the guy's like, that's cool. And he went out and listed it. It's a leverage point. Life is all about leverage, and you have leverage right now if you're good at what you do. This also works with all those people that have said, well, I'd sell my place, but I don't have anywhere to go. All right, let's have a conversation. When can I come out and talk to you? I got a game plan for that. Let's get really specific. Where do you want to live? Let me go see if I can find you the house. What I would tell you is think commercially. Think like a commercial realtor in this market. Commercial realtors do not have multi-list. So what do they have to do? They have to put deals together. Think of this thing like a 1031 exchange. If you're familiar with 1031s, right, like-kind exchanges, you have someone who would sell something, but they're like, I don't want the cash. You got to find me something else to buy. So you have to go beat the bushes and find them something to buy. And you find someone who says, I would sell that, but I don't want the cash either. Hold on. Let me go find somebody over here. Oh yeah, I'd sell, but I don't want the cash. Y'all stay put, hang on. And ultimately, what are we looking for? The person at the other end who says, you know what, it's time for me to cash out. That's what we have to do. That's what the true pro does, right? Our reliance on multi-list has just created part of this mess for us. I'm so tired of seeing realtors post in Facebook groups these very specific things that their buyer wants. I see it all the time, maybe it's just because it's Springfield and they're so unprofessional in Springfield, but they have this very specific thing and they're posting in Facebook groups, who's got something coming up? I'm like, if you know that much about your buyer, why don't you just go find it for them? They would love that level of service. The last thing is have a proactive calendar. How many of you have a proactive calendar? That you have things loaded into your calendar every day, 5 days a week, that you know what you're going to do. Anyone? Galen? Yeah. Right, you got things loaded in. I mean, my calendar is, I used to say I can't run my life off of my phone. I just can't do it. I'm a paper guy. That doesn't work anymore. I run my life off my phone. I have to look, because I'm always moving Zoom meetings around and this, that, and the other, right? I mean, is your day, like when you walk out here, do you already know what you're going to do this afternoon? Is it the same things that you do what is today, Thursday? Is it the same thing you do every Thursday afternoon? Is your calendar loaded with things that if something doesn't mess up what you normally do, you know Thursday afternoons are dedicated to this? That's what I mean by a proactive calendar. If you looked at my calendar, my Mondays are socked from like 8 to 5. It's just, I do about 26 hours a week on Zoom, believe it or not. My Mondays are swamped. My Tuesdays are really busy. Start getting to Wednesday, my mornings are busy. Try to keep my afternoons a little open. Fridays, or Thursdays we get pretty open, and Fridays I have one call, unless something else happens. Because I decided I wanted to run my schedule. And I'm going to tell you guys, you're going to decide you're going to run your schedule. Now, it gets out of balance every once in a while. I was at the office at 5 o'clock this morning because I was redoing things and printing things off because I had new ideas that I felt like I ought to bring to you guys. Right? Run your life. Please start, just to make an attempt to run your life versus reacting to what everybody else tells you you should be doing. What's a proactive calendar? The tasks that you'll be accomplishing in the context of your business model unless a more dollar productive situation arises in the time slot. See, I think this triggers us subconsciously that if I already had something scheduled I was doing and then someone calls, well, I have to have a conversation to see if this is of a higher priority than what I already have scheduled. And sometimes for me that means I'm going to move a Zoom meeting that I already had scheduled. And sometimes it means I can talk to you next week. I had one of those yesterday. I had a deal come in from my website. We'd like to talk to you. I'm like, okay, a little busy. I can talk to you on next Tuesday afternoon. They haven't replied. Okay. Because the state am is next week at Portachima, so I'm going to be up here all next week, but I'm playing golf on Tuesday morning, so I can't talk to you Tuesday morning. Realtors tend to have very reactive calendars where we leave big blocks of time open in case somebody calls or something happens. Theoretically, this could be the perfect day. It would fit all of the time blocks, right? You're going to get copies of these slides. You don't have to take pictures.
Can't see it.
No, you're going to get like the big one. Yeah. This was just for notes. The theory would be that you could run your life like this if you wanted to. This piece, that I only would work 2 nights a week, it'd be probably tough right now. I get the market, but aspirationally, I pulled this off. 2 nights a week for listing presentations. I got so tired of making listing presentations 5 nights a week that I was like, this sucks. Like one presentation every night or almost every night, and you couldn't really figure anything out. And I was like, I wonder if I could just do these on Tuesday and Thursday nights. But I knew myself well enough to know that I would never pull the trigger on it. So I brought in my assistant and I said, from now on, here's how we're going to try this. We're just going to see if this works. I'm going to, all of the listing presentations, I'm going to tell them that you set all my appointments, and I'm going to transfer the call to you. And the only nights you can do it are Tuesday and Thursday nights. Because I knew myself, I'd lay down. And I said, if they can't do it a Tuesday or Thursday night, you have to come to me, and then we'll set up another time. And she's like, okay. Well, guess what happened? They got to where the vast, vast majority were Tuesday and Thursday nights. And I think at some level, we have to try to do that, right? You have to try to run your life. Please. It's a personal quest for me that you shouldn't lose your life as a real estate agent. I get the market you're in. I get it. We're all busy. Everybody's busy. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to keep putting things in place to get back to more normalcy.
You become the scheduler, not the schedule.
Yeah. Because that's why we got into this, wasn't it? I'm going to be a realtor because I'm going to control my time. I'm not going to have to do anything I don't want to do anymore. Remember those days? That was right after you passed the test, right? And then we get into it, and it's like, oh my God, I have no life. I want to go back and have a regular job now and only have to work 8 to 5, right? I've seen people get out of real estate, take a $13 an hour job in a call center. And I'm like, if you would have I'd have paid you $13 an hour if you'd have just called the people I told you to. It blows me away. Anyway. What's the one thing you could do today? By doing that one thing, we get you closest to your goal. What's your deal? What's your deal? What's your big honking audacious goal, to quote Jim Collins? What's the thing you believe you could be the best in the world at? You ain't there yet, but you could be. Because what I know, and what you guys know, I know, is that when you go hang out with or meet or whatever, the top Dekansky. You ever met Dekansky? Top Remax team in the country. Rob Dekansky.
Nashville.
Huh?
Is he out of Nashville?
No, he's out of Jersey. He's a Jersey guy. Actually, I think he got beat last year by the guy in Nashville. But if you meet Dekansky, it's like, well, you're just doing different stuff. You're not special, right? It's not like he comes in and all the lights come on or something. It's just you're just doing different stuff with your time, right? That's all it is. If you focus on doing the right things, success is actually inevitable. You don't know when you're going to get there, right? But you just keep doing what you believe to be true. Everything I ever read, guys, everything that you'll ever read, everything that's in this book, this stupid little book that I picked up the other day that Metzner gave me, this is repeatedly what this thing says. And the thing that really resonated with me was, if you're not going to be doing this your whole life, why are you doing it now? Why don't you go do what you enjoy? Why don't you try to create your life around the things you like to do and create time for what it is you like to do? Why don't you do that? Because you can. Because people continue to do that. That's when the guy accused me of he said, basically, you've always been semi-retired. Because I said, he said, you sure play a lot of golf. I go, yeah, I love to play golf. Kind of work my deal around golf. And he goes, well, so you've always been kind of semi-retired. I'm like, okay, I'll own that. I'm good, right? But one of my mentors was a guy that took 13 weeks of vacation. It was the first thing that he put in his calendar every year. He blocked out 13 weeks of vacation. I said, wow. He said, do you think there's a correlation between the millions of dollars a year I make and the fact that I put 13 weeks of vacation in to start with? I'm like, yeah. He goes, look, it's real simple. He said, when I've got 13 weeks of vacation in, I know I got to be all over it and on it and doing my most productive things while I'm working, because I'm getting ready to take a trip again. As opposed to, oh, I'd like to be able to take some time off sometime, maybe, someday. Always remember, the goal of any contact is to identify a potential client, not to try to turn everybody into a client, because you don't have a chance. You're not going to resonate with everybody. And one last thing, the proactive agent's mantra. There was life before you. When you walk out of here today and somebody calls you, you need to have this run through your mind. There was life before I got this phone call today. Would you like some help? And by the way, if you'd like some help, here's how I would help you. And here's the materials that we would use, and here's how we would go about this. But oh, by the way, there will be life after you. Because I have my life. You have your life. Live your life. Run your life. Get your three-legged stool or your four-legged chair or whatever it is, and run all your decisions through that. Seriously, run every decision you make through this. Will it move me closer to the fulfillment of whatever it is I say I want to do, or will it pull me away from it? If it'll move you closer to it, go for it. And if you know on the front end it'll pull you away, step back and go, do I really want to do this? I've been very lucky to be mentored by some really cool people, and they all did this. They all did this. It's life lived at its highest level. Run your life. In order to do it, you have to be proactive. Okay, thanks. I'm done. Oh, look at that, before 12. How about that? Thank you.